Hello, creatives. On a cloudy Saturday, April 2nd, 2022, in beautiful Space Coast, Florida. I'm actually like around 5 miles away from Cape Canaveral, and it's a great day to stay in. It's drizzling, and so anyway, let me get into the the drawing here. Once again, these drawings are based on a format, a rudimentary format created by the great genius Carl Gustav Jung, psychiatrist, one of the fathers of psychoanalysis, a mystic, an artist himself. So, he came up with a concept that I've been embracing now for years on active imagination and combining creativity and active imagination along with psychotherapy and the ability to see things in forms of symbols and intuition, and also be able to analyze dreams. And then all this put together, what it does is it activates the unconscious. The unconscious starts speaking to you, and this is these are like unbelievable power tools that we can activate. And drawing, creating an artifact, generating an artifact. We all have the ability because we all drew and we were creative when we were kids. Anyway, when we were 6, 8 years old, 10 years old, we would draw. And a lot of these drawings where the ability for us to discover our intrinsic self, and also to have a relationship with our family through creativity. I used drawing very early in my life to be able to communicate with my mother, my grandmother, and my father, where I would make a drawing, and I would make a daily drawing and I would give it to my grandma, and she would definitely give me a response and give me brownie points. So anyway, drawing is very important. I use a traditional approach to drawing within a Pablo Picasso, Amadeo Modigliani sensibility of the 20th century, where the reason I want to bring Picasso in and Modigliani and the self-portrait, the artist and the model. And this is what we use here as analyzing symbols, analyzing relationships, analyzing being in a relationship, and why we see certain things in the relationship that are weird or bizarre. And, it takes a lot. It takes a lot of time. That's why part of drawing this, I start drawing what is gestural drawing, and then what you see here is basically, the rendering of finalizing a drawing. So I go in there, and then the line gets thicker. But this is something that I think I want to elaborate a little bit more, even for myself, because I start with a very light drawing and I go like that, and then I start defining form and content. But the more I go into the drawing, the more I go into myself. Now, the more I go into myself, and this is something that I've been working in therapy, and here, let's bring this out for a second. I have kind of like a Chizola weird studio setup here. Let's go back into Carl Gustav Jung, the ego, the subconscious, the collective, the unconscious, the animus, self, and shadow. This area here, the self, the self. Okay, let me see. Right, the self. I have a tripod in front, so I got to see what's in the camera. Da, 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 da. Okay, the self in the model. It could be. It doesn't matter. Once again, it doesn't matter what subject. If it's a male, female, male, female, female. We're not talking about genders here. We're talking about the roles we take in being in others and others in being in us. And soy por soy, something that Jean-Paul Sartre talked about in being in nothingness, which is kind of a manifesto on it's a manifesto on existentialism, but it's also very psychodynamic. The relationship we have with love, the relationship we have with the qualities of love. What do we become attracted to, that we become addictive to, that it becomes with time an attachment? Is it the form? Is it the scent, the smell? Is it the touch? This is what Sartre said. Now I'm deviating from Jung here, and it's fine. This is an art project. This is not science. Even though we bring stuff like I have here, E equals MC squared, that famous Einstein equation is very, very important. But what the relationship between the self and the model, the artist and the model, the lovers, and the displacement or the connection is very existentialist. Jean-Paul Sartre said, there's no such a thing as love. We love the qualities of love. Once those qualities are gone, we go to the next person. And this is the hard part. This is a hard part because when you are in a relationship, call it a kindred, soulmate relationship, and that relationship has foundation and it has certain structures. These structures are very quantified in space-time, where you have time with the model, with the person. Let's say it's 7-year relationship. So you're talking about a certain space-time quantified in a reality that goes where? It goes into the collective. The collective. And this is the hard part, because when it goes into the collective, it navigates in the unconscious mind. Meaning, once the person is gone in the 3D world, it could be a breakup, it could be death, it could be third party. Once the person leaves you, you're left with the quantification of what that person meant to you. And that's the hard part to disengage, because that goes right into that quantum electromagnetism of the collective unconscious. When a person decides to leave, break the connection, it's very similar what we experience in the world of quantum mechanics, where that famous horrific singularity, that is a theory that the Big Bang was created on a singularity that cracked, busted an atom. And that's how we get the fusion. That's how we get the fusion of energy and mass and creates a universe. The same thing happens in a relationship. When people meet, there's a singularity that comes together. and it's almost like an atomic bomb. There's a mushroom effect within our interior, with our intrinsic. Now, these drawings are about navigating the self, right? The self, the artist, the self, and the model. Takes many, and the reason that I want to slow it down in the way I speak, I literally speak really fast, and I stutter, and I go all over the place. But for the sake of drawing, I'm going to slow it down. And I don't give a shit if it's boring, if it's, pathetic. If you engage, like Carl Gustav Jung says, engage, you concentrate, which helps the mind, you focus on a dream, you let the unconscious speak, you generate an artifact on paper, and you analyze it. All this takes time. To analyze a relationship, let's say the relationship is 7, 10, 11 years old, and the relationship starts going in one direction. One direction. I had a little sample here, and I threw it out, but it's going like that, and then it goes this way, and the other person goes this way. You have to psychoanalytically, space-time, you have to quantify it by calendar. This is where the objective mind comes in, and you put the emotions. You get your emotions and you put them to a side. Because emotions, what they do, they tend to magnify the situation, both the psychological situation, and it magnifies the physical part of the situation, where you become paranoid. You say, "Oh, okay, we're not gonna share life together." So that's the physical. Then the psychological is depression and the attachment and the pain and all that. Then you go back into an area of childhood where you're being disregarded. Your drawing is not being looked at, so you're getting disregarded. Grandma, mama, daddy is not looking at your drawing, so you start feeling a sense of, am I good enough? That sense of insecurities and self-esteem literally goes back to your childhood. So whatever you were told when you were a child by family, friends, school, professors, that stuff really never goes away, because, it does in a way, because you grow and you get knowledge and you get resilience and you develop through just moving on in life, the process of just moving on. You develop an ability to be able to see from a higher perspective. The reason that these drawings are so effective is, Jung said it, through the power. If somebody is denying, somebody's lying, they're hiding stuff. If you lie, you hide. If you hide, you lie. If you have secrets, you're hiding. You're lying. If you don't have an ability, this is really interesting. This is a symbol of a compass. So here is south, north, east, and west. If a person doesn't have the ability, or the relationship has the ability, where is the relationship going? You're literally out there in the midst of the ocean, navigating a vessel. It could be in the middle of in the middle of the ocean, where you get these incredible turbulence and incredible winds, and you lose orientation. Or you're out there and a storm comes. Relationships can be very, very chaotic and very frenetic, and there could be an area where the relationship doesn't know where it's going. Therapy, analysis, objective thinking, space-time. That's what we call in quantum mechanics. No longer space and time, because you get to the part of the particle where time with the electron is not time as we know it's time in the 3D world. Electrons can go into the future, past. They can go into parallel universes. They're bizarre. Bizarre, just like behavior. When a person develops, when people bug out, bug out and they become completely unpredictable, and they start being deceptive, and they start getting into their intrinsic, interesting here. The hand is hidden. They think they're gonna get away with that being exposed, like stealing. They feel like they're gonna get away. So the hand is here. It's interesting. I didn't notice this, but here is what I would say. There's a loop. There's a well, it could be a quantum loop. It could be an unconscious loop. It could be a loop that this person is not aware because they're stuck in ego. Ego here. You go to ego. When you go to ego, you really start getting stuck in the subconscious mind because you're basically on the conscious level. You're trying to hide a lie. You're trying to get away. It's like putting your hand in a fire pit, but you believe you're too beyond getting burned by the fire pit. It's like putting a marshmallow. Oh, gee whiz, man. Let's see here. Okay. Nothing happened. I hit the tripod. It's like putting your hand in a pit. You wanna toast a marshmallow, and you're gonna put the hand in the pit, thinking that you're not gonna get burnt. That's part of running away from the shadow, running around from the self. Meaning you go back to ego. You're so entitled that you're gonna put the hand in the fire pit, and you're not gonna get burned. A person that has a vision, that's been burnt before, that understands the pain, will say, you know what? I'm going to get a stick and attach the marshmallow to a stick and put the stick in the fire pit. Obviously, this is based on personal situations where the person thought was going to get away with lying. This person rushed into a third party, or third parties, multiple parties, with karmics, with people that are, the person is very successful financially. The model is very successful financially. The model is a very independent woman. She's a modern woman, very respected, very financially, an achiever, worked really hard, top of her game. A lot of energy around her because of her status. She takes care of a lot of people, but financially. I had a similar experience with my mother. My mother was well off financially. My mother was a malignant narcissist. And she did everything her way, the highway, made a lot of financial mistakes. She lost it all. We lost it all. So I've been in that path of being with a bull-headed, concrete-headed person that doesn't want to have outside interference with vision, and they go back and they get stuck in ego. What happens when that person gets stuck in ego? Their compass gets stuck. They don't know which direction they're going. And what do? They end up here in a kettle or pit with toxic people, with karmics, with codependents. This person lost tons and tons of money between 2018 and now, presently. Tons of money. She doesn't communicate. I can see it. Why I can see it? Because through analysis, one becomes aware of the patterns of behavior. The patterns of behavior are like the patterns informing content. Patterns in behavior are very mathematical driven or very, very pattern driven. Like I have these lines here, maybe defining a piece of fabric, like a shirt, a t-shirt. Obviously, this part here is naked, the foot, the leg. No longer is the self here, the artist, focusing on the areas of form and content, the areas of sexuality, the areas of the apple, Adam and Eve, the apple, the whatever fetishes, whatever turned-ons, where in the sensuality and the connection of the sensuality and sexuality no longer is perceived, because this person has blocked off, has sabotaged that energy connection. So here, the person goes into where? If you do the work, instead of going into ego here, which is ego is here, people say, oh my God, it's the third eye. No, it's not the third eye. You go into ego. You go into ego. You block the subconscious mind and the conscious mind. You block the collective. But most important, you block yourself. If you're not able to navigate this whimsical scaffold from the ego to the shadow to the archetypes that are here, and that's a different video, because the archetypes is an area that this person, the model, has a lot of problems with. An alpha archetype. That's a whole different. So there's, if you have a problem with a feminine energy, a masculine energy, that is based on trauma, based on unresolved issues, that you were hurt in relationships and you develop that displacement with the feminine and that has to be balanced, the yin and yang. And it's symmetrical. It can be asymmetrical, because if you violate, and I'm sticking to Carl Gustav Jung structuralism here, of going up and down the scaffold of finding the self, finding, doing work, shadow work. If you run away from shadow work, if you run away by lying, not meeting your shadow, not working the shadow, how in the hell are you going to get to the self? How the hell are you going to get into the self and be able to do a self-portrait, be able to analyze yourself in the mirror, and not see a narcissist, like my mother, a narcissist. We all have narcissistic behavior. We all have personality disorders. But the most important thing is how we navigate through these gestural drawings. Hopefully, the better we get at it, the more clear the form and content becomes. And we can be able to assess the analysis objectively, be able to evaluate space-time. Space-time. You could start here in a relationship in 2005 and finish the relationship in 2022. And you see how look how interesting. It's literally like a seesaw. It's balance. If the relationship gets asymmetrical, you have to question if the person is in ego. If it's the person is in ego, they're stuck. They're annihilating all this stuff. But most important, they're annihilating their self. They're running away from their shadow. And they're creating a displacement within the relationship that truly has a lot of problems. It gets real messy. Usually what happens is there's a dispersion. Person goes this way, the other person goes this way, and that's the end of the video, and that's the end of analyzing this drawing. I think I could life review. It could be a life review. Anyway, a review on being in others, others being in us in a creative manner. Remember, it doesn't matter how well you draw, if you can render or not. If you can do a stick drawing, you're already on your way. A stick drawing is amazing. A stick drawing could be the beginning of being able to lay out some form of a grid. And that grid is the beginning of formulating on a piece of paper your own intrinsic universe. What makes you unique. Your unique self, which is the only thing you really have to take care of. Respect. Always respect. And always make sure that you are you. Not somebody else. Living somebody else's life. Living your own life. Within your own grid. And that grid is like Einstein's theory of relativity. It expands and it shrinks. We call that the fourth dimension. We call that general relativity. We call that special relativity. We call that relativity. Thank you for watching.